The massive ship appeared over New York without warning. One moment the sky was clear, and the next, a vessel larger than any aircraft carrier hung silently above the city. Panic spread quickly, but not as quickly as videos of the ship across social media. Captain Tom Reed was eating breakfast when his phone rang. 2 hours later, he stood in a hastily assembled command center with 5 other military and scientific experts, all chosen for their calm under pressure. "Why me?" Tom asked General Lewis. "Because you don't scare easy, Reed. And you understand people." The general's face was grim. "We need someone who can read the room, even if the room contains aliens." The call came at noon. The aliens would meet with Earth's representatives. Tom and his team were flown to Central Park, where a smaller craft had landed on the Great Lawn. The alien that emerged looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. It stood too tall, its limbs too thin, its movements too fluid. Its skin had a faint blue tint that shifted slightly in the sunlight. "I am Ambassador Lore of the Vash Collective," it said in perfect English. "We have monitored your broadcasts for some time." Tom stepped forward. "Captain Tom Reed, on behalf of Earth, welcome." Lore's eyes, too large, too purple, studied Tom with what seemed like amusement. "Your civilization is quite young," Lore said. "We've been traveling between stars for 50,000 years. Our coalition includes 26 sentient species across 300 worlds." The ambassador invited them aboard the smaller craft, which was more spacious inside than seemed possible. The walls glowed with soft light, and strange symbols floated in the air. Dr. Anna Miller, their chief scientist, gasped at a display showing what appeared to be a map of the galaxy. "Your technology is incredible," she said. "Basic transportation and navigation," Lore replied with a slight movement of his long fingers that Tom read as dismissal. "Standard for level 8 species and above." "And what level are we?" Tom asked. Lore's expression shifted subtly. "Earth is classified as level 0, barely sentient by coalition standards. You've only recently discovered basic atomic principles and crude computing. You still fight wars over resources and beliefs." Tom felt his face flush but kept his expression neutral. "We have much to learn, then." "Indeed." Lore gestured at the screens. "We offer limited diplomatic relations and basic trade agreements. We can provide medical knowledge to eliminate some of your more troublesome diseases." "And in return?" Tom asked. "Cultural exchange, art, music, nothing of strategic or technological value." Lore's tone made it clear they had nothing of value to offer. Coalition protocol forbids sharing advanced technology with species below level 3. Throughout the meeting, Tom noticed something odd. Despite their superiority, the Vash seemed tense. Lore would occasionally glance at a pulsing symbol on his wrist device and twice stepped away to speak quietly with another alien. At one point, when Dr. Miller asked about space travel beyond our solar system, Lore's answer seemed rehearsed. "Such knowledge is restricted. Your species is not ready for interstellar responsibility." When Tom mentioned humanity's adaptability in crisis situations, Lore's attention sharpened momentarily before he dismissed the topic. As the meeting ended, Lore presented them with a small device, a gesture of goodwill. "This will allow us to communicate directly. We hope this is the beginning of a beneficial relationship," Tom said, choosing his words carefully. Lore's lips formed what might have been a smile. "You are an interesting species, Captain Reed. Primitive, but interesting. We will establish a permanent embassy in one of your months." As the alien craft rose silently into the air, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The Vash had all the power, all the knowledge, and yet they seemed worried about something they weren't sharing. "What do you think?" General Lewis asked as they watched the ship vanish. "I think," Tom said slowly, "that they need something from us. They just don't know it yet." 5 years passed since the first landing. The Earth Galactic Embassy now stood tall in Geneva, a strange mix of human and alien design. Tom Reed walked its halls with the confidence of a man who belonged there, though many aliens still looked at humans with thinly veiled contempt. Tom's role had grown from first contact representative to chief human diplomat. The job was mostly frustrating. The Vash and their coalition partners shared medical advances as promised, but little else. Humans remained level 0, despite rapid progress in adapting what little technology the aliens permitted. Ambassador Reed called a voice from behind. Tom turned to see Karn, a small green-skinned alien from the Terra species. Unlike most aliens, Karn seemed genuinely interested in humans. "Just Tom, please," he said with a smile. "How's the translation project?" "Fascinating." Karn's large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of excitement. Human languages contain so many metaphors and double meanings. Very inefficient, but creative. They walked together toward the dining area. Over the past few months, Tom had carefully built a friendship with Karn, who was junior enough in the alien hierarchy to sometimes speak freely. "Any news about the Void?" Tom asked casually, mentioning a term he'd overheard twice in meetings between high-ranking aliens. Karn stopped walking. His skin paled slightly. "Where did you hear that term?" "Around," Tom said vaguely. "Nobody explains much to us level zeros." Karn glanced around nervously. "Not here," he whispered. They found a quiet corner in the garden section, designed to resemble an alien world with strange purple plants. Karn spoke softly. "The Void is troubling, an expanding region of space where technology fails. 3 outlying colony worlds have gone silent in the past year." Tom kept his face neutral despite the shocking news. "And the Coalition's response?" "The usual. Study, analyze, debate. But nothing works near the Void." Karn looked uncomfortable. "I should not discuss this." "Of course," Tom nodded. "Let's talk about something else. Those simulation tests your scientists keep giving us. What are they looking for?" Karn seemed relieved at the change of subject. "Pattern recognition, problem solving under pressure, standard evaluation metrics. And how are we doing?" "Strangely," Karn admitted. "Humans find solutions the designers never considered. Your brains work differently. You make unusual connections." This wasn't the first time Tom had heard this. Last month, a human dock worker had solved an alien engineering problem using a simple pulley system. The aliens had sophisticated anti-gravity technology, but struggled when it malfunctioned. Their specialists were baffled by the primitive solution. Ambassador Reed, a cool voice interrupted. Ambassador Lore approached, tall and imposing as ever. "I see you're entertaining Karn with human conversation techniques." "Just making friends," Tom replied evenly. "We humans value personal connections." "Indeed. So inefficient." Lore's dismissive tone hadn't changed in 5 years. "The Council requests your presence. We're selecting candidates for the Cultural Exchange Program." Another program where humans would visit alien worlds, but learn almost nothing of value. Tom nodded politely. "Karn, return to your duties," Lore commanded. The smaller alien hurried away with an apologetic glance. As they walked to the council chamber, Tom noticed Lore checking his communication device repeatedly. "Problems, Ambassador." "Nothing that concerns level 0 species," Lore replied automatically. But Tom caught the flash of worry in those alien eyes. That evening, Tom filed his regular report to Earth's secret research team. He included everything: Karn's mention of the Void, the aliens' interest in human problem-solving, and Lore's unusual anxiety. The final line of his report read, "They're afraid of something they can't solve with their advanced technology, and they're starting to notice that humans think differently. I believe these facts are connected." Tom stared out his window at the stars. Whatever was coming, humanity needed to be ready. Because despite all their advanced technology, the aliens seemed afraid. And they were watching humans very, very carefully. The emergency alarms blared throughout the embassy at 3 in the morning. Tom rushed from his quarters, still pulling on his jacket. The normally calm aliens moved quickly through the halls, their voices raised in what could only be panic. "What's happening?" Tom asked a passing Vash official, who ignored him completely. The main command center was chaos. Screens showed a dark, spreading stain across star maps. Ambassador Lore stood at the center, issuing rapid orders in the Vash language. Ambassador read. Lore noticed Tom. "This doesn't concern Earth. If those alarms woke up every human in the embassy, it concerns us," Tom said firmly, standing his ground. "Is it the void?" Lore's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that term?" "Does it matter? What's happening?" Lore hesitated, then gestured to a screen. "The void has expanded suddenly. It consumed the Barthi homeworld yesterday. 12 billion lives. Gone." Tom felt the blood drain from his face. Gone. Dead? Unknown. All communication ceased. All ships that approached disappear. Lore's voice was tight. "This is coalition business. Level 8 and above. With respect, Ambassador, Earth is in this galaxy too. If something is consuming entire worlds, we deserve to know." For the first time in 7 years of knowing the alien, Tom saw Lore's composure crack. "Very well. The void appeared 9 years ago at the edge of Gnome space, a region where technology simply stops working. No signals can penetrate it. No ships can return from it. And it's growing faster than our models predicted." 9 years ago, Tom repeated. 2 years before you contacted Earth." Lore didn't answer, but his silence was confirmation enough. The aliens have been monitoring Earth while dealing with this threat. For the next week, the Coalition held emergency sessions. As a concession, Tom was allowed to observe but not participate. Earth was finally told the full truth of the void, though the Coalition assured them it would take decades to reach Earth's sector. Tom watched as the most advanced species in the galaxy argued uselessly. Their technology, the same technology they had always been too superior to share with primitive humans, was useless against the void. On the 8th day, engineer Lisa Clark arrived from Earth. She had been studying the little alien technology humans had access to, and Tom had requested her presence. As the Coalition debated sending a massive fleet armed with weapons that had already proven useless, Lisa leaned over to Tom. "They're thinking about this all wrong," she whispered. "Lisa, now's not the time," Tom cautioned. But Lisa stood up anyway. "Excuse me," she called out. The chamber fell silent as all alien eyes turned to her. "The human will be silent or removed," one of the Vash counselors said coldly. "Just hear me out," Lisa insisted. "You're trying to fight this thing with energy weapons and quantum fields, right? But the void absorbs energy. What about fighting it with no energy at all?" Lore looked at her with disdain. "Explain quickly, human. Mechanical systems, analog technology, things that don't need complex power sources. Have you tried those?" The aliens exchanged glances. "Primitive technology was abandoned millennia ago," Lore said. "It's inefficient, unreliable. But does the void affect it?" Lisa pressed. "Based on your data, the void disrupts quantum fields and energy flows. What about simple mechanics? Pressure systems, chemical reactions?" "This is absurd," another alien counselor interrupted. "We will not stake the survival of civilization on primitive human tools." Lisa was escorted out. Tom followed, apologizing to her. "They're not going to listen, are they?" she asked. Tom shook his head. "Not yet, but I've been watching them for years. They're scared, and their fancy technology is failing. Eventually, they'll run out of options. And then they'll come to us." Tom looked back at the council chamber. "I've requested all their data on the void be shared with Earth. Start working on your idea, Lisa. Don't wait for their permission." As they walked away, Tom heard the rising voices of the aliens, their perfect composure cracking as fear took hold. The void was coming. And for the first time, humanity's primitive status might be their greatest strength. 6 months passed. The void continued its relentless expansion, swallowing 3 more worlds. Earth watched from a distance as the mighty coalition technologies failed one after another. Meanwhile, in an old warehouse outside of Boston, Lisa Clark and her team worked day and night. "It's not pretty, but it works," Lisa said, wiping grease from her hands as Tom examined the device on the workbench. It looked like junk, a mix of gears, tubes, and what appeared to be old-fashioned vacuum tubes alongside simple circuit boards. "What exactly am I looking at?" Tom asked. "We call it the Thravac." Lisa patted the machine proudly. "It's a communication system that uses no quantum tech, no AI, nothing the Void seems to target. Part analog, part very basic digital, like something from the 1960s, but with a few modern twists." Tom frowned. "The Coalition has ships with engines that bend spacetime. How is this going to help?" "Because it's so simple it might just work." Lisa pointed to schematics on the wall. "The Void absorbs complex energy patterns, but doesn't seem to affect simple mechanical action or basic electrical currents. This device can send and receive signals using modulation methods the aliens abandoned thousands of years ago." Tom nodded slowly. "And Earth is funding this?" "After your reports, absolutely. While the Coalition debates, we're building 20 of these, small enough to fit on probes." 2 weeks later, Tom requested an urgent meeting with Ambassador Lore. The alien looked haggard, his normally perfect appearance showing signs of strain. "Another human request. I have no time for this. Read. The Baleri system fell yesterday." "I know. That's why I'm here." Tom placed a small metal box on the table. "We want to test this near the Void." Lore looked at the crude device with obvious disgust. "What primitive toy is this? Something that might work where your technology has failed." Tom met the alien's gaze steadily. "What do you have to lose?" Lore laughed bitterly. "You think humans, in a few months, have solved what the combined greatest minds of 26 advanced species could not." "We think differently," Tom said simply. "That's what you've always said about us, isn't it? That our minds make strange connections. That we find solutions no one else considers. This is absurd. The Void has consumed 8 worlds now. Your coalition is falling apart. Some species are already fleeing to the far side of the galaxy." Tom pushed the device closer. "Let us try." 3 days later, a small coalition ship carried one of Lisa's devices toward the edge of the Void. Tom and Lisa watched from the embassy as the ship approached the darkness that showed on the monitors as an absence of stars. "Signal lost," announced a technician as the ship crossed the boundary. The aliens around the room exchanged grim looks. "Nothing new." "Wait for it," Lisa whispered. 1 minute passed. 2. The tension in the room grew. Then, a scratchy sound came from speakers that had been silent during all previous attempts. A voice, barely audible through static. "This is Captain Mail. We're inside the boundary. Ship systems failing, but the human device is working. We can transmit and receive." The room erupted in shocked exclamations. Ambassador Lore stared at the primitive radio speaker in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The Void affects complex systems. Your quantum communications, your AI navigators, your energy weapons," Lisa explained. "But it doesn't touch simple radio waves or basic circuitry. Things so primitive you stopped using them millennia ago." The test ship managed to retreat from the Void, the human device guiding it back. When it returned, the Coalition scientists swarmed over Lisa's throwback, their earlier disdain forgotten. That evening, Ambassador Lore requested a private meeting with Tom. "Your engineer needs whatever resources she requires," Lore said, his voice stiff with what Tom recognized as forced humility. "The Coalition will provide materials, facilities, personnel. I thought primitive human technology was beneath your consideration," Tom couldn't resist saying. Lore's large eyes fixed on Tom. "Pride is a luxury we can no longer afford, Ambassador Reed. The Void will reach the Vash homeworld in 50 days at its current rate. We need your primitive solutions." Tom nodded, keeping his expression neutral despite the satisfaction he felt. "I'll inform Earth immediately. We're happy to help our galactic neighbors in their time of need." The mighty aliens, who had dismissed humanity for years, now depended on them for survival. Tom only hoped Lisa's solution would be enough. The Vash homeworld was in chaos. Once a model of order and advanced technology, now its citizens prepared for evacuation. The great coalition that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years was breaking apart. 3 more worlds had fallen to the void in the weeks since the human device had been tested. In a vast facility provided by the coalition, Lisa worked with a team of humans and aliens. Hundreds of throwback devices were being built, but it wasn't enough. "We need something bigger," Lisa told Tom as they examined a galactic map showing the void's expansion. "These devices let us communicate through the void, maybe even navigate it, but they don't stop it from spreading." Tom rubbed his tired eyes. "The coalition leaders are meeting in an hour. They're expecting solutions, not more problems." "Then tell them we need to go to the source." Lisa pointed to the center of the void on the map. "Everything we've learned suggests the void is emanating from somewhere. We need to find that place." "That's suicide," Tom argued. "Even with our devices, no ship has penetrated more than a few light years into the void before having to turn back." "Then we build a better ship." Lisa pulled up schematics on her tablet. "One designed from the ground up with our technology. No quantum drives, no AI navigation. Just good old-fashioned combustion engines, mechanical controls, and human pilots." Tom stared at her. "You want to build a spaceship using technology from the 1960s. "With a few modern tweaks," Lisa grinned. "The void doesn't affect human brains the way it affects alien neural patterns. That's why our devices work when we operate them, but fail when the aliens try to use them alone. Something about how we think is different." In the Coalition Council chamber, panic was setting in. Species that had been allies for millennia now accused each other of hoarding resources and ships for evacuation. Ambassador Lore called for order as Tom entered. "The human representative has arrived with an update on their technology." Tom took a deep breath. "The communication devices are working, but they're not enough. We need to reach the center of the void, find its source." "Impossible," a tall, crystalline alien said. "Nothing survives in the deep void." "We believe a ship built with primarily human technology and piloted by humans can penetrate deeper," Tom continued. "We need resources to build it quickly." The chamber erupted in arguments. Half the council thought it was a waste of precious time and materials. The other half saw no alternative. Lore raised his hands for silence. "The Vash will provide whatever is needed. We have 19 days before the void reaches our world." Over the next 2 weeks, humans and aliens worked together for the first time as true partners. Lisa's design took shape, a ship unlike anything seen in the galaxy for thousands of years, crude by coalition standards, but elegantly simple. On the day of launch, Tom found himself selected as part of the crew. 5 humans and 3 aliens who had volunteered despite the risk to their neural patterns. "Your brain patterns may deteriorate the deeper we go," Tom warned Karn, who had insisted on joining the mission. "If we fail, all our worlds die anyway," the small alien replied with unexpected courage. As they boarded the ship, named Throwback after the original device, Lisa gave final instructions to the engineering team that would remain behind, producing more devices to help with evacuations if the mission failed. Ambassador Lore approached Tom at the airlock. The once proud alien looked diminished somehow. "The coalition was wrong about humanity," Lore said quietly. "You were never primitive. You were preserved. You retained ways of thinking and technologies we abandoned long ago. Ways we now desperately need." Tom nodded. "If we succeed, perhaps our species can learn from each other as equals. If you succeed, the galaxy will be in humanity's debt." Lore handed Tom a small object. "This contains the complete technological database of all coalition species. No more level 0 restrictions. It is yours regardless of what happens." The ship launched with little ceremony. On view screens across Coalition worlds, billions watched as Throwback approached the expanding darkness. Unlike the sleek, elegant ships of the Coalition, it was ugly, functional, a hodgepodge of old and new technologies. But as it crossed the boundary into the void and maintained contact when all other ships had failed, it became something else entirely. It became hope. Darkness surrounded the Throwback as it pushed deeper into the void than any ship had gone before. The mechanical systems hummed and clicked, operating on principles abandoned by the Coalition millennia ago. At the controls, Tom and the human crew worked alongside their alien companions, who wore special helmets designed by Lisa to shield their neural patterns. "How much farther?" Tom asked, checking the primitive radar system. "Impossible to say," Lisa replied from the engineering station. "But the energy readings are getting stronger. We're heading toward something." Karn, monitoring communications, suddenly straightened. "I'm detecting a signal. Not Coalition. Not human either." For 8 days they had traveled in near-complete darkness, the stars hidden by whatever force created the void. The ship's old-style engines pushed steadily forward, while Coalition vessels with far more advanced technology couldn't even approach the boundary anymore. The void had grown, consuming 3 more systems during their journey. "Put it on speaker," Tom ordered. A strange sound filled the bridge, rhythmic pulses that seemed to follow a pattern. "It's a language," Karn said excitedly, "but nothing in our translation database." "Can you respond?" Tom asked. "Let them know we're here peacefully." Karn adjusted the communication equipment, sending back a simplified version of the pattern. For several minutes they waited in tense silence. Then the signal returned, altered slightly. "They're talking to us," Lisa whispered. Suddenly, the darkness ahead parted, revealing a massive structure floating in space. It resembled a giant crystalline web, pulsing with soft blue light. Around it orbited smaller structures, ships or stations, impossible to tell. "We found it," Tom breathed. "The center of the void." A beam of light shot from the structure, scanning the Throwback from bow to stern. The ship's systems flickered but remained functional. "They're curious about us," Karn said, listening to new signals. "They didn't expect our ship to work here." As they approached cautiously, more details became visible. The structure wasn't a weapon or a machine. It appeared to be a habitat, a world created in space. "I'm beginning to understand their language," Karn said, his alien mind processing the patterns. "They call themselves the Tur. They'd been trying to communicate with the galaxy for centuries. But what?" Tom prompted. "But their technology operates on completely different principles. Their signals, their very existence, disrupts our advanced systems." Karn looked up, his large eyes wide with realization. "The void isn't a weapon. It's a side effect of their presence." The Throwback received coordinates, directing them to a docking area. Against the advisement of the other crew members, Tom decided to accept the invitation. "We didn't come all this way to sit in orbit," he said firmly. Inside the structure, they found large, luminescent beings that seemed to be made partly of energy. They moved fluidly through corridors that shifted and changed. With Karn translating the increasingly complex language patterns, Tom learned the truth. The Tur had evolved in a region of space with unique properties. Their technology, their biology, everything about them operated on quantum principles that were incompatible with the technologies the Coalition had developed. They hadn't intended to create the void. They were simply trying to reach out, to make contact with other intelligent life. "They've been sending envoys for centuries," Karn explained as the Tur showed them historical records. "But each envoy caused disruptions in our technology. The Coalition mistook them for attacks and responded with weapons. So they created a shield," Tom realized. "The void is their protection." The lead Tur, a being named Elo, communicated directly with Tom. Through Karn's translation, Tom understood the tragedy. 2 advanced civilizations, unable to communicate, mistaking each other for threats. The void was expanding because the Tur were desperately trying to establish a safe zone around their home after centuries of what they perceived as coalition aggression. "We can fix this," Tom said confidently. "Humans can be the bridge between you and the coalition. Our technology works in both worlds." Elo seemed to consider this, its luminescent form pulsing with changing colors. "They're willing to try," Karn translated. "But they need proof the coalition won't attack again." Tom looked around at the beautiful alien world these beings had created. The answer was suddenly clear. "Tell them we'll stay," he said. "Some of us will remain here as ambassadors while the others take the message back. We'll be the connection between worlds." As Karn translated, the entire structure seemed to brighten with hope, a hope that had been absent from the galaxy since the void first appeared. 1 year later, Tom stood in the Grand Council chamber of the new Galactic Alliance, where once only the most advanced species had seats. Now representatives from all coalition worlds sat alongside humans, and most remarkably, 2 luminescent Tur delegates. The void was gone, replaced by clear transit corridors established through careful negotiation. Tom watched as Lisa demonstrated the latest technology, a hybrid system combining coalition quantum engineering with Tur energy principles, bridged by human-designed interfaces. What had once been incompatible now worked in harmony. Ambassador Reed, Lore approached, looking more like his old self again. The crisis had passed, but the galaxy was forever changed. Earth's petition for full membership has been approved unanimously. Level 10 status with special designation. Tom raised an eyebrow. Special designation. Connectors, Lore explained. No other species can work effectively in both technological paradigms. Humans are uniquely positioned as intermediaries. Tom nodded, remembering how close they had come to galactic war. If the Throwback hadn't reached the center of the void, if they hadn't established contact with the Tur, billions more would have died in a conflict born of misunderstanding. "The Tur have requested more human ambassadors," Lore continued. "They find your species fascinating. Your brains process information differently than any other known species. You make intuitive leaps that our logical systems cannot. And you once called us primitive for that very reason." Tom couldn't resist pointing out. Lore's skin flushed slightly blue, the Vash equivalent of embarrassment. The Coalition's greatest error was standardizing our approach to technology and thought. We became so fixated on efficiency and logic that we lost the ability to think differently. We abandoned technologies that seemed primitive without considering their unique advantages. Across the chamber, human engineers worked alongside Coalition scientists and Tur energy specialists. On dozens of worlds, joint projects were underway. Earth had become the center of a technological renaissance, combining 3 vastly different approaches to science. "What happens now?" Tom asked. "The exploration ships launch next month," Lore replied. "Each with mixed crews, Coalition, human, and Tur. There are parts of the galaxy none of us have been able to reach alone. Together, perhaps we can." Tom smiled, thinking back to that first meeting 7 years ago, when the Vash had looked at humans with such disdain. Now humans were essential partners in the galaxy's future. Later that evening, Tom found himself on an observation deck with Karn and Elo, the Tur representative who had first welcomed them to the center of what was once the void. "Your world is joining the exploration mission," Karn said excitedly. "The first Terra ship with human and Tur modifications launches next week. Our people learn much from humans," Elo communicated, the translation now smooth after months of refinement. "You bridge worlds. You see connections others miss." Tom gazed out at the stars. "We were lucky in a way. While other species advanced beyond certain technologies, we kept exploring all paths. We never abandoned the simple along with the complex." Not luck. Elo's form pulsed with colors that the translation system interpreted as emphasis. Balance. Humans value both logic and intuition, both past and future. A small ship passed by the window. a new design with a distinctive blend of all three civilizations' technologies. It moved with grace and power that none could have achieved alone. They dismissed us, Tom said quietly, called us primitive, barely sentient. Now they depend on us. And you depend on them, Karn pointed out. And on the Tur. That is the greatest lesson of all this. No species has all the answers. Tom nodded, watching as more ships moved through the busy space lanes around the station. Coalition vessels with their elegant quantum drives, Tur ships glowing with their unique energy systems, and human vessels with their practical, adaptable designs. Different approaches, different thoughts, working together. Ambassador Reed. A young aide approached. The Academy ceremony is beginning. The first graduating class of multi-species crews awaits your address. Tom straightened his jacket and turned from the window. Once, humanity had been alone, looking up at the stars and wondering if anyone was out there. Now they stood at the center of a new galactic community, valued not despite their differences, but because of them. It was time to build a future where no species would be dismissed again.